Well, now we know that all that talk about Bryan Kohberger stalking one of these victims was false information. So, did he drive around the King Road house 12 times and get close enough to touch the Wi-Fi or not? Hey everyone, it's Lucky with Unfiltered Lucky. And today I want to talk a little bit about the Bryan Kohberger hearing that happened yesterday. And they have taken the gloves off. Now let's just talk about everyone who spoke yesterday, beginning with the judge. Judge, in my opinion, doesn't seem to be confident in anything really that's happening in the courtroom. He's being scolded by the prosecution as well as the defense. He's in no rush to make any decisions. And he seems very casual about, sitting in front of a quadruple homicide case. He's giggling and laughing. He seems to have very strange reactions to Ann Taylor. It just seems odd to see this judge who doesn't appear to be confident, and he almost appears indecisive, which is not a good situation if you're a judge. Now, Ann Taylor, the lead defense attorney for Bryan Kohberger, was not putting up with the BS yesterday. She stood her ground and she put her foot down, which was really good to see. She let this courtroom know that she was not going to be bullied around like she was last week by Bill Thompson. And I think that I felt like it really changed the vibe in the courtroom. She definitely let Bill Thompson and Judge know that this was not going to be a replay of last week. I gained some respect for Ann Taylor yesterday. She appeared very confident, not only in herself, but also in her client. And it also appears that she's caught on to the shiesty tactics of this prosecution and the manner in which this judge is going to handle this case. And she's definitely adjusted herself accordingly. She appeared extremely confident. And in my opinion, this was a very good look for the defense. Also, defense attorney Alyssa Masseth. She came right out of the gate. And she was very firm and very confident about what she was saying, not only to the courtroom, but directly to Judge. She made it very clear and let everyone in this courtroom know that Bryan Kohberger has rights. He should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. And she made it very clear to everyone in that courtroom that this defense has every intention of ensuring that Bryan Kohberger's rights are not violated in this courtroom. I feel like the confidence that this defense displayed yesterday, as well as the confidence that they displayed in their client's innocence, was really great to see. They really needed this. This defense attorney also took shots at the ridiculous PCA. And it was really great to see her bring that up in court in front of the prosecution as well as Judge. In my opinion, the defense had a great hearing yesterday. It was good to see something that we really haven't seen yet, and that was confidence. They weren't putting up with the BS that they've been putting up with. They were firm on what they were talking about. And I just felt like that was a really good look for the defense. Now, also, Dr. Bryan Edelman. He's appeared to be very capable and very educated in what he was talking about. You know, he's done this many, many times. And honestly, when I was kind of watching him in the courtroom, it kind of looked like he was maybe asking himself, you know, what is going on here? What kind of circus am I involved in? This man is a trial consultant and an expert with 15 years of experience. And he has Bill Thompson talking to him like he's 5 years old. You know, Bill Thompson was very condescending towards Dr. Edelman. But let's be honest, Dr. Edelman made Bill Thompson look pretty ridiculous yesterday. Bill Thompson accused Dr. Edelman of crying about his work not being taken seriously, which was rude, considering that Bill Thompson's been crying this whole time. You know, in my opinion, Bill Thompson was really just trying to be antagonistic, and he was just trying to cause a distraction. You know, now we know that Bill has a crafty side. You know, he was sitting there just salty, just, you know, objecting to a PowerPoint presentation simply because it was in front of his face and he didn't want to look at it. You know, so he didn't feel like he should have to look at this PowerPoint because really there was no basis for him to even have to pay attention. It was just really ridiculous. You know, and in my opinion, Bill Thompson basically saying, you know, this PowerPoint is right in front of my face, you know, and I have to look at it. Well, don't look at it, Bill. Look away. Dr. Edelman understands dissemination orders and the jury selection process extremely well. Probably better than Bill Thompson as well as Judge, in my opinion. You know, he came across very, very capable. And even Dr. Edelman stated numerous times, this is ridiculous. You know, this is not an uncommon practice in big cases like this. Dr. Edelman explained the many, many cases that he has worked on, very high profile cases at that. And even he thought that these people were acting rather ridiculous in a courtroom setting. Bill Thompson wasn't listening to understand, in my opinion. He was listening to respond, you know, in a very rude manner, but he wasn't listening because he cared about the information, in my opinion. He was basically just looking for an argument or an opening to kind of slide in there and try to make this expert look ridiculous. But instead, I think that it made Bill Thompson look extremely foolish. He was running the show at last week's hearing. But yesterday, Ann Taylor was not playing Bill Thompson's games. And he was not running the show yesterday. And Bill didn't like that. You know, it really appeared to irritate Bill that he was not in charge yesterday. He almost acted childlike, in my opinion. He seemed to, you know, be very immature about the way that he was acting. You know, interrupting the judge and insulting the expert. It's very clear that Bill is used to being the one in charge. Bill is used to running the show. And yesterday, Ann Taylor did not let that happen. And in my opinion, Bill was really upset about that. Bill likes to be in charge. And when he's not in charge, you can tell that he reverts to childlike ways and immature actions. which doesn't really surprise me much because I feel like he's been showing his true colors more and more as time goes on. He basically goes back to the same thing as last week. We're not accusing you of doing anything wrong. We're not saying that this is your fault. This is nothing personal. But we're accusing you of doing something wrong. And we're saying that it's your fault. And stop crying about everything. He basically insults the expert, which sounds pretty personal to me. Bill Thompson also basically confirms that the rumor about Bryan Kohberger stalking one of these victims was false information. Surprise! That's what a lot of us have been saying since the very beginning. But because Steve Gonsalves and mainstream media have kept saying that Bryan Kohberger was stalking one of these victims, people believed that this was factual information. But the prosecution confirms that this is false information. So was Bryan Kohberger around the King Roadhouse 12 times with, being close enough to the house that his phone actually touched their Wi-Fi or not? Was the prosecution trying to say that Bryan Kohberger may have been in this area, but it wasn't to stalk one of these victims? Now, if Bryan Kohberger wasn't around the King Roadhouse stalking one of these victims, as the rumors would imply, then that would basically eliminate one of the connections that Bryan Kohberger might have to these victims. There's just something about Bill Thompson that makes me feel like he's in charge of making sure that everything stays a secret. Like he's the gatekeeper of all of the information. And he knows it. I didn't feel like Bill Thompson really said anything of substance yesterday. It almost just appeared as though he was acting as the antagonist, and trying to distract what the defense was doing yesterday. So we'll see how that works out for the prosecution in this trial. As for the defense, I feel like they made a strong statement yesterday, and they could tell that it was agitating Bill Thompson. I think we're going to see a different defense from here on out, and I'm here for it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And if you liked my video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. I really do appreciate it. We'll see you next time.